Join us for a full review of the updated Toyota Hilux. We'll fill you in with all the details, the changes with this slight facelift, exterior, interior and the driving experience here today in this new very strong Invincible trim. But we're also going to tell you everything about the other trims available. So join us now, as you know, on Autogefühl in full HD, full screen and full length. Let's go. In the front, the update of the Toyota Hilux sees new headlamps and they are slimmer right here. Standard would be halogen with the base version, and these here are the optional or include in the high trims the LED lamps, and they also have a new daytime running light right there. In general, the grille is now bigger, more prominent for a more menacing look. But this one here especially is the so-called Invincible version, the highest trim, and this comes with this huge plastic cladding already here in the front. However, if you think about base price, taking a German reference now, 25,000 euros, and then if you pick the double cab as it stands here right now in the highest trim, about 50,000 euros, so double the price. So you always have to think about when you pick it in a really, really high spec, is it still fulfilling the original purpose of the car? Of course, both versions are available, but really looking forward to your comments later on. If you rather would go for a base Hilux and more for like this rugged off-road use, or more for this high trim luxury. But here they try to combine both, this really great off-road look, but actually this is more the luxury version. However, talking about then the off-road capabilities, this is still a very, very off-road capable truck. 31 centimeters of ground clearance or 12 inches. The approaching angle in the front right then here, 29 degrees, and the descending or departure angle in the rear, 26 degrees. So in the US they use the Tacoma, the bigger version. Here then in Europe and other markets worldwide, the Toyota Hilux, definitely very off-road capable, but more and more people also buy it for street use, just for styling. The length is at 5 meters 33, 17 foot 5 or 210 inches. And now, from which side will I enter today? The guessing game starts right now. Today it's the front. Well, and there's the double cab version right here for most passenger space. However, there's, whoa, no, I'm not drunk yet. I'm not doing the drinking game from guessing the sides. Maybe later. So depending on the length of the loading bay, you also have then the other version. So it starts with a single cab with a loading bay of 2 meters 30. Then there's the extra cab that's in between. And this one here is the double cab. Then the loading area is just 1 meters and 50. So really depends on how long you want this part to be and how long do you want this part for the passengers to be. Wheels would start with 17-inch steel, the base setup. Actually also best then for off-roading, then 17-inch aluminum, or optional here the 18-inch aluminum wheels. We have here dark menacing style, and this again the Invincible trim with the big cladding right here. Then we also have this side step and so on, and then this bar here. Sometimes they call it sports bar. I mean, it looks really cool and it's also pretty massive. Then you have these Invincible letters. These are just stickers, by the way. It just has a sticker design that looks 3D-ish, especially from the distance. So styling, definitely, I think we can all agree this one here has the coolest styling, this new Invincible trim, because it already tells us, yeah, let's go off-road. And here in this trim we also have these Invincible stickers here in the 3D styling at the rear. Actually quite nice design here for a rear, because we have another big off-road style element right here with the next braking light, and also the tail lamps here have a very modern LED style. And of course, typical as we know, we can fold down the hatch like this. Then we have the rugged loading area. And then we can pull this one here to the right, and open this one like that. And this was here 1.50 meters in length, 1.80 meters with the extra cap, and 2.30 meters with the single cap. So depending on which length you appreciate actually. And good also that here the lights on the side, they stay visible even if you have this part here lowered. If you put some motocross bikes on there, then you still can leave this one here lowered and you can still see the tail lamps here at the side. And that's what it's for here. Here I can also pull it back like this. Yeah, some work for me today. Here we go. As for engines, depending on the country, depending on the market, petrol engines, there's a 2.7 liter inline 4-cylinder, then there's a 4-liter V6 petrol available, and for Europe the diesel 2.4-liter diesel, or today the new 2.8-liter diesel, 204 horsepower and 500 Newton meters of torque. The entry engines also come with rear-wheel drive only, optional all-wheel drive, and this one here automatically comes with all-wheel drive only. Of course also with a transfer case and so on, so really off-road capable, and also with an automatic transmission. Typical for a pickup or truck is that we have a gathering of keys here for the rear, for the loading area, and then here this is the digital car key just for the front. And interesting, this type we'll find in an interior decoy element. Zoom more to that. Keyless entry, when you press this button here at the door, it's closed like this, door closing sound. Sounds quite solid, nice. Then here, you can see here almost the styling here of the key. Then this is actually quite nice. This doesn't look hardback, but it actually is, but a nice trick. Then here there's a soft leatherette cushion then for your elbow, just inside the doors also for bigger bottles, that works. Then we also have these rugged rubber mats that you can clean them easily. And steering wheel here with the design that you have on the left side here for the volume, right side for controlling the small digital instruments right there, all hardback and rugged, here also with these handles. And then usually standard would be fabric seats, like in the duty or comfort trim level, for example, depending on how they're called. And executive and also Invincible like this come with the animal skin surface. Of course the fabric more breathable then, and also a little bit more comfortable when sitting on it. So of course you can get in here with these side step, but then you make these dirty. Shooter, very important today. But as I said, these rubber mats can also be cleaned quite easily. Seating position, high and upright as you would expect it, and actually quite cozy as for the seating position. Headroom with 1.86 or 6.1, there's way more than enough left. Steering wheel up and down and also in and out. That's also cool, and some pickups, for example like the Nissan Navara, do not have that, then it goes only up and down. And also tall people find a suitable seating position, that's no problem. And also the roundabout visibility is actually quite decent. Interior overview, this nice deco element is here again at the top part, and also this very 90s or even 80s style digital clock here in the top part. Here then to open or close the vents. New 8-inch touchscreen, this is used now with the facelift, and you can see it here. Finally Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration, and soon more details to that screen. The steering wheel, the steering itself, the technical side of it has been reworked. See more about that in the driving part. So it's supposed to give you a little bit more comfort and also a better feeling. Here you can control the digital instruments. We also take a look at that. Digital instruments just in the middle part. they are classic analog, just the digital instrument in the middle part. Here for cruise control in the lower part, start stop engine button, then below that there are the off-road controls for the rear-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, and then the low gear for the off-road gear reduction. Climate unit still classic and easy to control also while driving. And in the lower part, more off-road gauges for the rear differential lock, hill descent control. Oh, and then nice covered features here with the heated steering wheel and also the heated seats. Here you connect your smartphone, one USB-A charger. You can put it here in the lower part, and couples are non-adaptive. And then for this diesel, 2.8 liter diesel, there's a new 6-speed automatic gearbox that's supposed to give you also more comfort in shifting. So far I had a good impression from that. The only thing is, has this rather complicated old stair structure here for putting in the gears. Sports mode here in the left side, but this is more than like for the manual control like this. And then there's also a power mode and an eco mode available that also changes the throttle characteristic. Then you have a small cubby hole, manual handbrake, and then there's this armrest which could be a little bit better attached, but I think it's very soft here for your elbow, and underneath a big cubby hole. And a close-up of the infotainment. Here we also have the optional sound system in, and I mean, this is not set out to be this luxury segment, but considering, I found the sound actually quite decent. So this is a pleasant surprise as for that. The usual system here, what they have here is, yeah, you see, pretty basic look, and there's no GPS installed here, so when I hit map it jumps to the CarPlay GPS, but that's also fine. It is also available with the car internal GPS, but save the money, it's not really worth it. The rest of the system really is somehow basic, not up to date. The really important news is, once again, that you can use it now with the Apple CarPlay or the Android Auto. That's the most important thing. Then the instruments, right side speed, left side RPM, and then this small digital gauge in the middle part. For example, for the fuel economy or for the current speed. But you can also check out your music there, assistance systems or some warning and so on, but pretty basic. And now to the rear seating area. Right here. Yeah, opens quite wide, that's okay. And this being the double cab version, you have the longest leg room actually. So the extra cab would be shorter in the rear, just more or less emergency seats. And the single cab, of course, then, as the name says, without a cab in the rear. And here in the double cab, as said, most legroom, then it also fits with tall adults. This seat, as we would be driving, is tall adults as well. Then you can also fit 4 tall adults right here. There's like this bag hanger here, you can fold out. Pretty unusual to see this at the rear seat. And seating position here in the rear is actually quite comfortable. Isofix at the outside parts each. And in the middle part, you could theoretically also sit, but then headroom-wise it gets close. On the outside, however, there's no problem. Also fits then once again with 1.86 meters or 6 with 1. And here in the middle part, you have, it's not dampened here at all, but here then you have some cup holders, also non-adaptive. Welcome to Thomas's Driving Lounge with the Toyota Hilux. Here, newly available 2.8 liter diesel, 204 horsepower. And you do hear this typical diesel nailing sound, so it sounds actually quite old school. But with 10.7 seconds to 100 kilometers or 62 miles an hour, it's 2.1 seconds faster than the smaller 2.4 liter diesel. And of course, also, as I said earlier, petrol engines then available in other markets. Here in Europe, especially in Germany, you can only get the diesel engines. So they did also rework something with this facelift here, about the rest of the driving. And one thing is, there's a new steering that's supposed to be a little bit more, easier and more direct to steer. So we'll soon come on that. And then there's suspension rework, leaf springs in the rear, and suspension also supposed to give you a little bit more comfort. So indeed the steering is pretty light. Of course, having this off-road focus of the vehicle, you cannot expect a progressive approach. So here you see you have to steer quite a lot. That's again perfectly usual with off-road vehicles. So when you have harsh off-road situations, that your steering wheel doesn't get like turned around all over the place. So that's actually quite okay. But still, I mean, yeah, the steering rework. There's a new servo pump active, and they say that when you hold it just straight for a longer time, it gets deactivated to save fuel. That's interesting. So that would be like when you're running straight for a long time. But most of the time, at least on European roads, you do steer at least something. And I mean, since it has this off-road character, you don't have the best feeling in the steering wheel. And here also, when you're like, you know, turned halfway like this, there's one thing that it's set on the off-road mode, and then you have to steer more. But indeed, you don't get the best feeling that you would be connected to the road. Although this is of course not a focus of the pickup. Suspension-wise, I have to say, it's really a little step forward. Of course, once again, this suspension is also set on that you can do some heavy stuff with the vehicle as well. Now at 3.5 tons is the towing capacity, so that has been enhanced in here when you go for the big diesel, and also has been reworked for the small diesel for 3.2 tons before. Now here lane change about 80 kilometers an hour, and suspension indeed doesn't shake up too much, so this suspension still has to fulfill different things, so it has to be rugged and off-road ready. Yet at the same time they wanted to increase the driving comfort on the road, because more and more people are buying the pickups, the trucks, as we say in the US, for the road driving, just because of the looks, because it looks cool, and you still can have the back then for utilities and so on and so on. So the soft off-road use is also quite frequently, of course, and then hard off-road use, that diminishes bit by bit. Still, of course, some customers do that with the vehicle. Here again, when I really try to shake it up, it's actually quite okay. You see here, it doesn't shake up too much, so that's fine. 18-inch wheels here with these standard off-road tires. We have two, and they are actually giving us still a good driving comfort. These off-road tires are usually softer, and that also translates into a softer driving than on-road. And since it's not a sporty vehicle at all, that's also just fine. Here now, when running straight, I can also set the cruise control. You set it here on the on the lower column here at the steering wheel, and it's just a just a very normal one. So you can just maintain the speed, and that's basically it. Overview, since it's a pickup truck, is actually quite good. All the upright windows and so on, you can hold on tight here for off-road use, of course. Or when you get outside and you look, what's coming at. See here, vortex generators here, and next to the mirrors. That's also a funny thing to have, definitely. Quite relaxing. Noise insulation is actually quite okay so far at these speeds. So let's get 2-speed a little bit more, and we can also show you what about the acceleration when we are already at speed. First of all, let's check the consumption so far, and that's about 10 liters and more kilometers when just driving calmly would be like a minimum consumption. It's also coming close to the official consumption stated. That's about 23 mpg US, 28 mpg UK. That's actually then for this size okay. However, also have to think about that it's a diesel. Then let me show you back to the speed. So one more. So now when let's drop to 60 kilometers an hour. I also activate the so-called power mode, so I have a little bit more boost and a little bit more throttle input. And then 60 kilometers an hour to 100. Let's go. Plop, that's it. So you have a kind of understanding of the power. I have set it to the 2-wheel drive mode, so this is then rear-wheel driven. The Hilux available as rear-wheel drive and as all-wheel drive, so both is possible to purchase. Here, this one, the all-wheel drive version, but when you drive it on the road, then you just use the rear wheel drive, that you don't apply more pressure on the whole drive shaft and so on. The all-wheel drive mode then really for off-road situations, that you can, master these situations better. But here when road use, just leave it in the two-wheel drive mode. And of course, a rear-wheel driven car is always then a lot of fun. Here now, motorway, 100 kilometers, 60 miles. Again, noise sensation is not too bad. Of course, with the pickup truck, it's never the best, but considering the upright building style of the car, it's still okay. Once again, view to the rear is also very good. How stable is it here at the higher speeds? Do lane change. Yeah, it's also quite okay. So no worries as for that. Still feels rather calm and collected. Drive a little bit faster as well, around 30 kilometers, about 80 miles. Now you feel that the wind noise is picking up just a little bit. The good thing is you always have this upright seating position, which also brings you more comfort. Now on the brakes, this is of course a heavy car, but still, if you compare it, for example, to a Toyota Tacoma, that one is the bigger, heavier truck. Thanks so much for leaving us by. I should follow this one, right? Yeah, wishing all the luck that who is ever in there or needs to be in there will be doing fine, of course. This one here, the Hilux, not available in the US because it is actually too small, and they, probably would also expect that when they got the cheaper Hilux, then maybe people wouldn't pay so much money for the Tacoma then. Now accelerating out, which is of course fun, and with a rear wheel drive. Front axle stays light. Yeah, but really loud this diesel sound, right, isn't it? But the performance is actually quite good, and it gives you also advantages in comparison to the 2.4 liter diesel. And also if you think about then towing equipment, it's of course then better when you tow something really heavy, that you have a little bit more power. And when you have more displacement, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have high consumption or something. Talked about this issue quite a lot of times then. Unfortunately not available here with the petrol engines in Germany because of these CO2 fleet emissions in the EU. They need to bring that down. So they expect these then to have even higher fuel consumption. So we cannot compare them here just yet. So from the steering upgrade, I would have expected just a little bit more, I guess. But the suspension upgrade is actually quite cool. So indeed, we have to say that this suspension does master this compromise, that it's off-road suitable and also street suitable. So that's actually done totally fine with me. I use the GPS, by the way, from the Apple CarPlay, since this very vehicle here is not equipped with the car internal GPS. It is the best, it's the better GPS anyway. In Europe, sometimes we have the problems because we have data limits on our smartphones, unless you pay like a lot of money. This won't be the case then in other countries. So yet again, the car internal GPS here at Toyota, although we have the new 8-inch screen here, by the way, in these slower corners, I also want to do this one for you. You see, you have to steer a lot, again due to the off-road character of the steering. So here, the better use it via Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Do not trust on the car internal GPS. It is not that good, really not that good. So you shouldn't also pay the extra money for it. But at least we have this 8-inch screen now here with the Apple CarPlay and the Android Auto connection. So Toyota customers in Europe waited a long time for this connectivity. The US customers had it before, and that's definitely a helpful thing. So in the middle, a small screen, then you just have to digital speed, that's it. And of course then the RPMs right there on the left side. And here now 90-degree corner, you see I almost have to turn the steering wheel once around right there, which will then helping in off-road situations to keep just calm and run straight. Now a little bit of countryside driving right here. Beautiful sunflowers here as well. We always try to combine a little bit of landscape views for you here too. Here we can show you one more slalom. Of course, again, not trimmed in a sporty way, but considering it's a pickup truck with a soft off-road suspension and these big off-road-like tires, I think the slalom is, the car is doing very well in this case. By the way, if I go to the all-wheel drive mode, I can also activate it while driving, that's no problem. And when I accelerate then, I feel I'm also getting pulled from the front wheels just a little bit. So it's, yeah, a little bit different characteristic, but especially when I would be like steering a lot, that's not so good for the car. Pushing once more then, when sitting still, we can also go to the low mode, to the off-road gear reduction. That's also possible. You can, by the way, also when you are in the rear driven mode, can already activate the rear differential lock. So that would be something in between. It's possible. Hill descent control is available. Oh yeah, for winter times, why not activate the steering wheel heating? That's of course a nice comfort feature. And so especially in this high trim, try to combine a little more comfort features, but these animal skin surfaces here in the Invincible trim, the highest trim, they get a little sticky at times. Then you can clean them easier, of course, but Leather Red could do the same. But I can really recommend to go with low or mid spec. Then Hilux is not that expensive. It's not supposed to be the high expensive luxury pickup, you know. And with the fabric seats, you also have more seating comfort because just the surface is a little bit more comfortable, and they are also more breathable. So especially for longer term driving, that's definitely more helpful than the animal skin seats here, which are sadly combined with the highest trim. Although this trim here on the outside is looking really, really cool in this Invincible trim. So I really enjoy driving it here also with the off-road tires. Even when you drive it on the street, you always get some kind of off-road feeling, you know, because it's like soft and you feel you have these big wheels and the off-road wheels and so on. And this is also why people would go for the non-logical choice and drive a pickup truck just on the street, because, you know, buying a car is not always combined with logic. More and more, of course, also with emotions. And, you know, if you like that kind of truck or pickup feeling, then pickup we say in Europe, truck rather than US, then I mean, yeah, why not? You're free to buy whatever you want, definitely. So if you're more interested in off-road driving the Hilux, by the way, there's a video just 1 year ago, before this video was recorded, where Brian and Jonas went to an off-road park, and this was really interesting. You can see more harsher off-road situations and also some off-road reporting. That was the pre-slight facelift version, but for off-road driving doesn't make no difference. So I also link this video in the video description and in the pinned comment. So also see you there then with Brian for the off-road driving part. Today, a little bit more focused on the facelift changes they have done. So hope you enjoyed this one here. And now to our conclusion for today with the updated Toyota Hilux. Well, the updates are quite nice, you know, with the new lamps there in the front, the new look in the front, especially in this Invincible trim where you have this really, really strong look, a little bit like, F-150 Raptor-like, you know, but also here with the black cladding right there. However, sadly, that this exterior trim is also combined with the high trim on the interior, and then the price goes really, really high. And if you then think about that, the actual unique selling point of Toyota Hilux is more like a really decent price for a rugged car that is really reliable, then the question is if it makes so much sense to trim it that way in a high luxury, version, and then pay a lot of money for it. On the interior then also combined with the animal skin seats, and they are of course then better with the fabric surface when you pick a low or a mid trim. So although I really love this exterior design for the Invincible version, I would rather advise, for a better price performance ratio, if that's more important to you, go for a mid trim version, for example, and then also pay less money. Overall, very well usable as for the space we have here, especially as a double cab, but it depends really on, how long you want the cargo bay to be, and depending also how much space you need in the rear. Again, single cab, extra cab, and the double cab, depending then length of the cargo bay and length of the rear interior department. But that's then totally up to you. As for driving, the diesel sounds still typical diesel-like. It sounds and feels quite old school. This initial generation is still from 2015. The slight interior changes, also with the infotainment. Good to have the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Then you can also leave this, rather not very well usable car internal GPS you could order. Although it's a new update infotainment system, it doesn't look that fresh. But again, the most important thing is that you finally have the Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connection right there. Suspension upgrades, I found them actually quite nice. So you also have, especially while road driving, a little bit better feeling. The steering upgrade, can't say that this made the biggest difference now, but it can't hurt either. So, what do you think about our review of the update Toyota Hilux? Hope you had a lot of fun with this very iconic car. So, one of the very famous names, of course, at Toyota. And once again, if you're interested in the off-road driving of the Hilux, we also have a separate review of that. We will link it in the video description and in the pinned comment. So see you also there with Brian and Jonas. Today, the team Thomas and Jonas, then behind the camera. I hope you will enjoy both episodes in full length, or see you next time.